Welcome back to the Driveway Beers podcast with Mike and Alex. As always, we appreciate you listening. Please rate us on all the podcast platforms. Like, subscribe, comment, share wherever else you're listening, and enjoy the show. All right, welcome back to another show. We appreciate you listening. As always, please hit the like and subscribe buttons wherever you're listening to us on. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and rate us a review. Let people know what you think of us, good or bad. I want to thank Adam Chubbuck with techmd.com with Douglas Realty. So Team Alpha Charlie is his real estate group. One thing I wanted to mention was, in today's world, I don't know if anything bugs me more when I send a text message and I don't get a response for a while, especially if it's a service provider, right? The one thing I liked about Adam was when I sent a text or an email, I got a response, and in my opinion, it was a timely fashion. And I don't know why. I don't know why I was thinking about that. Other than I guess there's been a couple of times where you've kind of had to I've had to hunt for the response a little bit. I would send the question, and then hey, did you see my message? Hey, did you see this? And they're like, oh yeah, I saw it. Okay, well, do you have an answer for me? You're providing me a service. Can you please? And so, one of the things I appreciated about Adam was that he would get back to you in a timely fashion. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're having someone represent you in a really major transaction, you want that person that's representing you to at least have the decency to reply to you. And it's not as common as most people think it is. Do quite a few do, sure, but I know for a fact he does. So if you're in the real estate market right now, go talk to Adam. Have him give you his thoughts on what the market is currently and what he thinks it's going to be in the future, and see if now is the right time to buy or sell. He will give you an honest opinion, even if it means he's got to wait for your business. So go see Adam Chubbuck at techmd.com. And thank you for sponsoring this episode. We've got a bit of a more serious topic than last week's episode. Our last episode was our NHL, our top 5 NHL players episode. Really light, really easy. Had some fun with it. This is a different kind of topic altogether. So as you know, I've got 2 little girls, and the whole topic of Title IX and trans women in female sports has been a hot topic for the last couple years. Some of the Twitter pundits try to dismiss it. The common thread now is they say, well, there's only 63 transgender females participating in female sports. Okay. Only 63. Well, that 63 opportunities on female teams and women's sports that didn't have the opportunity to participate on their equal level, right? Because someone had a disadvantage. And by disadvantage, we've gone over this quite a bit. There's quite a few disadvantages or advantages for transgender females to participate on female sports teams, especially if they've gone through male puberty. But even if they haven't gone through male puberty, they still get some of the benefits.
I think right now, pretty much everyone who is playing, say, NCAA Division I sports has been through male puberty, as if they're going to be in their 20s. So unless they were within the last, because 6 years ago this really wasn't. I don't think it was to the point that it is now. So I'm pretty sure that now in the next 5-6 years maybe that'll change, but I still think there are inherent differences between, because the hormones that they give are only temporarily blocking. There's still stuff going on that there's still, if you look at a 9-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl, and then they get right to that point. I don't think that just putting puberty blockers is going to completely put the brakes on it, and that person's going to maintain the body of a 9-year-old boy.
So, there's the process of chemical castration, which I can't remember the movie, but apparently Alan Turing, who was the guy who he broke the Enigma code from the Germans in World War II.
Okay.
He was a gay man, and he was a bit of an eccentric. Mm-hmm. But back then in Britain, being gay was a crime. And they would sentence you to jail, but they would also sentence you to permanent chemical castration.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was nasty. And it affected his emotional balance so much, he ended up killing himself. Because he couldn't live, he didn't want to live like that.
Yeah.
So they do that to kids, but they also can do that to adults. Now, here's the thing, though. Most adults that go through it don't go through the full-blown chemical castration. They go through some hormone blockers, but I don't think it's the full-blown. Like, back then, I think it was pretty nasty stuff. So a lot of the NCAA athletes now that are transgenders, women, male to female, they had to have been, in order for them to compete on the NCAA level, they had to have been on some kind of hormone therapy for 18 months. That's it.
Right.
I believe it's 18 months. After 18 months, you can now compete as a woman. At least that's how Leah Thomas went through it. And she was the swimmer at Penn who swam on the women's team, was a biological male, won a title as a transgender woman. In fact, if you've ever heard of Riley Gaines, that's who Riley Gaines is. She was directly impacted by it because she, I think, placed 5th and he placed 1st.
No, she was 2nd.
Was she? Okay.
She was 2nd, and Leah Thomas was 1st. Okay. And then the NCAA insisted that, because they only had, actually they tied.
Oh.
And they insisted that that Leah Thomas get the trophy or the award, whatever it is. And then they get her one later.
Oh, well.
So
good photo op. Although the photo op ended up being the 3 other girls being away from her on the podium.
Yeah.
Or Leah Thomas on the podium. Like, they wouldn't stand with him.
Yeah.
But the inherent benefits are greater bone density, greater lung capacity, and greater muscle mass.
And also, like, if you look at foot size, hand size, wingspan,
correct,
stride, all that.
And in swimming, length of limbs matters. Length of foot matters because it's a propeller.
Yep.
Those things matter, especially, but lung capacity is a huge one because they can stay underwater longer.
Yeah.
But there was a biologist who said, essentially, a transgender woman who's gone through puberty, who's been on puberty blockers for 18 months, has a higher level of testosterone in their body than would be allowed for a biological woman taking steroids. So think about that. Think about a biological woman doping with testosterone.
Yeah.
And still not being able to get to the levels that Leah Thomas had in their body. And now you're still trying. So why is it considered fair for Leah Thomas, who has a higher testosterone level than a disqualified biological female who gets caught for using testosterone? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how they're just pushing that knowledge aside to make the exception.
Because to make any of this make sense, you have to just ignore stuff that's not convenient to you. Like, you have to ignore certain things in order to accept other things. So rather than explain it, they just pretend it doesn't exist.
Right. Or they say, well, it doesn't, it's only, again, they're using that, well, it's only 63 instances. That's all it is. Well, today that's what it is. And that's more than it was 5 years ago. It's more than it was 10 years ago. So there's a trend line, right? We're going in a different direction.
Yeah.
And that's why you've got some women sounding the alarm and some men saying, hold on a minute, we can't let this continue. And then, of course, last year in 2023, the White House put out a draft proposal to change Title IX, which, as far you know, Title IX was intended to create equality of opportunity for women to compete in sports. Mm-hmm. And I believe there were some other things, access to universities and some other stuff like that. That was actually put in danger, that universities couldn't discriminate against transgender females as not being female. So essentially saying transgender female athletes, or transgender females in general, had to be given the same access to women's spaces as biological women. And that any university that discriminated against them in any way regarding spaces, locker rooms, competing on women's teams, their federal funding would be revoked. Mm. Now, the White House just put out a memo, and this is the 24th of April. I believe they put it out last week or the week before. It was last week. Essentially, it was very, very scaled back. And I don't think a lot of people read it. They wanted to see it so they could pounce on it. It's an election year. They wanted to, labeled the Democrats as anti-woman.
What is it? Republicans pounce.
Right, exactly. The Batman signal for conservatives went out. Time to do your thing. It's here. Here's our layup.
Yeah.
But nobody read it. And they removed a lot of that. They basically, if I read it correctly, which we've already talked about, government speak on a piece of paper when they write shit. It's a fucking gobbledygook, right?
Yeah.
It was very vague and didn't do any of it. It essentially just said you can't discriminate, which
you can't do that anyway.
You couldn't do it anyway. But it didn't say that they had to give transgender females access to biological women's spaces. Mm-hmm. So but it is vague. So someone could maybe interpret it that way.
I'm sure someone will. Yeah.
So I have a feeling this is going to go to the courts and someone's going to sue over it. And I think it was if you're in favor of transgender females participating in biological women's sports, you're probably in favor of the way it was written because it's so vague. It's going to be very tough to attack in a courtroom, I think. And I kind of like it because I'm not in favor of it, because I've got two biological females, and the fact that I have to say biological females,
stop saying it,
is ridiculous.
Stop playing the game.
But in order to explain the situation, I feel like I need to make a distinction right here. Now, in my regular life, would I do this? Probably not.
Right.
But because we don't have video, I'm not putting up graphics about this. I'm not putting up dicks and not dicks. You know what I'm saying?
Landing gear, no landing gear.
Yeah, right. Because we don't have visuals, I feel like I have to explain it in ways that people can understand what I'm talking about. So because I have two little girls, and again, right now it's 62. By the time they are ready for high school and college in either 3 or 7, 8 years, when my oldest is ready, who's to say it's not in the hundreds or thousands at that point, because it was normalized, and because nobody decided to step in to protect women.
Well, I have all boys. I look at it a little bit differently. I look at it as, we all know Crazy Travel Ball Dad, okay? What happens when Crazy Travel Ball Dad's kid doesn't make whatever team?
Goes ballistic.
And then says, oh, you know what? This, Michael's now Michelle, and rather than playing baseball, she plays softball. And because they've defined it as, if you think you're a woman, you are, this woman is now going and playing softball and just hitting dingers left and right, throwing gas because Crazy Travel Ball Dad wants this person to get a scholarship. Or what happens when you have, because these Division I schools, they recruit athletes from overseas to come play. Mm-hmm. So what happens when it's some weird Eastern European country that is now saying, or when the remember the old East German Olympians were
they were jacked.
Yeah, everyone had a problem with it then.
Soviets did it too.
Yeah.
Back when they were a real problem.
Yeah. So that's kind of that's where I see it going. Like, I don't, any kid who wants to play a sport should be able to play a sport. But there are places for them to play a sport. And here's the thing, if that, the kid that has this, that believes they're a girl, but isn't, well, all the other kids are being told, and I wouldn't let my kids make fun of someone that was, you're not going to you have to accept them for who they are. Play baseball with where you should be, because you're not a girl.
When it comes to physical sports, and there's a biological difference between the sexes. And again, female sports were created so biological females had an avenue to play.
Yep.
So they had an equal opportunity to play. Didn't mean they had to. It just gave them an equal opportunity to play. Let's say, for example, our newly crowned Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
She plays on the high school softball team. All throughout those 4 years on the high school softball team, they are taking a spot away from another girl.
Yeah.
The 15th girl who, look, and the argument's, well, she wouldn't have played much anyway. I don't care.
Yeah, but she's not playing at all.
Right. Now she doesn't have the equal opportunity to play anymore.
Yeah.
Because someone cheated.
Yeah. And because Michelle can develop an immense more amount of power hitting, Michelle's now a danger to the other girls who are playing infield. When a line drive gets hit off this, headhunter comes off the bat heading for the third baseman.
Right. I mean, look up exit velocity for baseball versus softball.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Right.
Never mind the fact the velocity at which Michelle can throw now.
Mm-hmm. And then you have the fact that the girl who was going to be that stud hitter is now, rather than hitting fourth, is now hitting in the 5-hole, or Correct. Is getting bumped down, is not getting as much, or say this person's a pitcher. Now, rather than the girl being the starter, Michelle is the starter. It knocks everyone down a peg.
Right. And it's not a matter of a girl being better. It's someone with an unfair advantage.
Right.
And I think that point bypasses so many people that are in favor of this.
See, I don't know any.
There's no advantage. Oh no, they've been taking puberty blockers since they were 7.
Again, they pretend there isn't an advantage. Right. They're just pretending it doesn't exist. So it's like when you get that bill you don't want to pay. Just pretend it doesn't exist. Well, eventually, it's going to exist. And it's going to come back. So these facts that they just conveniently ignore are relevant. And they do matter.
And I think certain I'm trying to think of certain factions of liberals are starting to realize that this isn't liberalism anymore. And by the way, we're drinking. We went back to the well with an oldie. We said we would go back to a whiskey called Tin Cup, and we did. We've been drinking it as we've been speaking.
And we don't have video, so you're not seeing the grimaces.
Dude, it was bad. It's still bad. There's a chemical taste in there. I don't know what it is. Like the initial sip, the initial tip on the tongue, not bad.
Mm-hmm.
But then that weird taste hits you.
So I think for me, it's just a bourbon versus non-bourbon whiskeys. I just don't. I like the bourbon better. And at first, when people started first getting into it, and they were talking about how they're into this bourbon and that bourbon and blah blah blah, I'm like, you can't even tell the difference. So you tell the difference between bourbon and whiskey. And there's bourbons I like and there's bourbons I don't like. I bought 2 over the weekend that I don't like, and they will sit on my liquor shelf forever.
Yeah, this one's tough.
Yeah. No, it does have some redeeming qualities, but I would not take it. I mean, what's the cheapest bourbon on the table right now?
Shoot. It's either got to be the Four Roses regular, which is about $25. The Wild Turkey 101, I think, is also 25 to 30.
We drank all that. That's a dead soldier.
It is. The Buffalo Trace is 35.
Old Bardstown is about the same.
1792 is roughly 30.
Yeah.
I mean, so we don't have exactly high-priced stuff. That tin cup, I don't care what it costs, I wouldn't drink it.
Yeah.
Like, this is one. Like, I'm going to finish this because you don't want to leave a soldier behind.
Where are we going to pour it?
Right.
There's nowhere to dump it out down here.
The last couple of weeks, you've been pouring it out on my table.
Yeah, I have been knocking them over.
We've had like 3 mid-show cleanups. But we're professionals and we kept it quiet.
Right.
So.
And that was that wasn't even after a whole bunch of them. That's just because I talk with my hands and my hands are big.
Like that, the initial taste isn't bad but like 3 seconds into it, I taste something and I don't like it. Mm-hmm. I have no clue what that taste is though. It's like feet or something. I don't know.
Just be glad yours has ginger ale in it. Mine's neat.
No, I didn't put ginger ale in here.
Oh.
I took a sip of ginger ale.
Oh, like a chaser?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I needed something to cleanse the palate. No, I drank. I mean, I drank it on the rocks, but I didn't put anything in it.
Yeah.
Probably should have.
I should just drink this like a shot.
I didn't want to ruin the ginger ale.
I should just do, yeah. Yeah. Over lips and through the gums. Look out, liver, here it comes. Like that's what I should do with this.
It's like they infused it with like broccoli or something. I don't know. I can't. I wish I could put like a rubber band.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Okay,
rubbery, plasticky.
Here we go.
Yeah,
we can go with that. So it's like a nice whiskey. It's not a heavy proof. It's only like 84 proof, so it's not like it burns on anyone.
I was hoping it made it higher. The burn would distract you from the awful flavor.
The flavor, yeah, that tasted bad. Okay, so our final determination. This is the second time. Our final determination on Tin Cup is don't buy this shit.
It's got good marketing. Good PR.
You got the little metal cup on, the shot glass on top.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Nice. It's a nice bottle, got a good name to it. I get it.
Where's the stuff from, anyway?
Baghdad?
The gas station. And not like you bought it at the gas station that sells liquor, like the gas pump.
Right.
Let's see.
I feel like they have better bottles at the little gas station liquor store.
Let's see.
Over by Whispering Woods.
Yeah, I know that one. I'm convinced there's like some sort of teleport device or something that leads directly to West Baltimore at that place. What?
It's safe.
It's from Colorado.
That's the problem.
It's aged in charred oak barrels.
Yeah. Is it? Maybe that's the char oak. I don't know. But maybe it's
aged in an old condom.
Exactly. Yeah. It literally tastes like a freaking just rubber band.
Yeah.
That's gross. I'm gonna put that on the back bench and we're gonna leave it there forever.
Yeah. Give it to somebody. I wouldn't even say make old fashions out of it because an old fashioned is a spirit forward cocktail. So
I feel like you'd ruin the old fashioned.
Yeah.
Because that taste is so pungent. It just overpowered everything. Like, I mean, the taste on the front end was great. I actually thought it wasn't bad.
Like, if my kids were older and they drank this and they, like, filled it with water to hide it, I'm like, don't even hide it, dude. Like, it's terrible.
You're doing me a favor at this point.
Like, I'm mad at you for drinking it underage, but I'm not mad at you for getting rid of it.
Right. Thank you for taking the bottle out.
Right. Now go cut the lawn.
Yeah, right. Your punishment is to do manual labor. And put this in the recycle bin so I don't have to see it ever again. We're going to pretend this didn't happen. Right. Don't tell your mother. Right?
Pause. We're going to pretend none of this ever happened.
Okay.
Get rid of this thing. Like,
it's gone. It'll be gone. I might pour it out. It'll make me sad to pour it out, but I might pour it out.
No, leave it on the bed in case someone you don't like comes over and give it to them.
I got someone. I got other bottles I can give for that. Like,
yeah.
Like I'll do a cheap bottle. Like I don't want to. I don't know if I'd ever give someone bad bourbon or bad whiskey. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah. See, I generally try to have to not have people I don't like come to my house.
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't like having people in general. I think we invite people over like 3 to 4 times a year. That's about it. Yeah. We'll go to someone else's place.
Yeah.
I got no problem with that. And most times we're not even invited inside. So, there's that.
Use the back door, sir.
Right. We have a pool and a pond. I recommend the pond for you, sir. But going back to what we were talking about, so there are definitely some liberal talking heads that are kind of they've had enough, and Bill Maher was one of them, and it was on his new rules section of his real time show on HBO or the Max or whatever the fuck they call it now. And you can find it on YouTube. He puts a lot of his stuff on YouTube. And I think Bill Maher is a smug asshole. He doesn't. He had Jillian Michaels on his Club Random podcast, and he was like, "Oh, inflation's not that bad. It's not." And Jillian literally looks at him and says, "When was the last time you bought a dozen eggs?"
Yeah.
And he hadn't. Like, she basically called him out for being bougie as shit. Mm-hmm. And but he never surrenders the point. Like, he's never like, all right, you might have me, right? But on this point, like, he eventually does come around, though. If you put enough facts in front of him, he'll come around. Mm-hmm. But you have to hit him over the head with it. Yeah. And so finally, he did his new rules. And he was talking about how there was this new kind of documentary about Nickelodeon. And do you remember the name of it? It was Kids in something. It basically was about the kids in
TV Kids or something.
How like some kid actors kind of came out and they finally talked about the sexual abuse and how they're actual child sex offenders working in the industry, but how like some of these kids have been violated sexually by adults running the shows. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the thing that hit him over the head, and how liberals were kind of defending these people. And I don't want to call them liberals, but people that are on the Democrat side were defending these people. And then he kind of mentioned how, like, one of the people who worked at Nickelodeon, they were convicted, went to jail for 18 months, came out, was a registered sex offender, and then they went to go and they got hired at Disney.
Yeah. It's called Quiet on the Set, the dark side of kids' TV.
It's an interesting watch. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really don't care about the entertainment industry. Mm-mm. But I care about what it revealed. Again, adults are to blame. Again. And he kind of comes to the realization as he's talking through this that why do we keep letting adults, and especially adult predators, near children? Especially if you know they are one. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what the Federal Sex Offender Registry is for. Yeah. It's to identify these people. And in fact, you could literally go online and find out if there are any sex offenders living in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And then he mentioned that, Ron DeSantis, who's the Republican governor of Florida, when he said this, liberals didn't want to listen. But because a documentary was made, now they have a problem with it.
Right. Now it's bad.
Now it's bad. And he was talking, basically he was saying how it's tribalism. Because Ron DeSantis said it, mm-hmm. It couldn't have been right.
Right.
Even though it was the most evil thing, it couldn't have been right. Because our guy didn't say it. Mm-hmm. And that's very true. And then he kind of goes on to bring up other instances. For example, like the banned books that weren't banned, they were just taken out of schools because they were pushing a queer agenda. And he goes, if you don't think it's happening, and he shows the books on the screen, but then he goes, here's some videos from TikTok of teachers that are in schools telling you they're pushing the agenda. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, it's happening. Whether you want to think it is or it isn't, it's happening. And he goes, I shouldn't have to rubber stamp this as a liberal. And the weird thing, we've talked about this before. It's almost as if liberals, Democrats, whatever, progressives, whatever you want to call them, it's almost like they're living. They're almost living 4 years ago today, because this has been going. Like, this has been talked about and been going on.
Yeah.
Since 2020.
Yep. What did you say? Like the libs of TikTok.
Yeah.
Has been like she's been putting this stuff out for years. Even after what's that awful reporter, Taylor Lorenz,
yep,
outed her, and just she kept going after it. Like Taylor Lorenz has to be one of the most despicable people on the planet.
She literally went and found this lady behind the libs of TikTok Twitter account. Now all the libs of TikTok Twitter account does is it takes these people from TikTok.
They've already posted publicly.
They've posted their own material.
Yeah.
All she's doing is taking it and putting it on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's all she does. She doesn't make a comment about it. She doesn't say. She just takes it, puts it up there for more people to see. The problem is the message is really fucking bad.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people get pissed off that she's bringing light to this. It's almost like, shh, this is our agenda that we're supposed to be keeping quiet. Why are you putting it out to everyone else, especially people that we don't want to know, because then they're going to come after us.
It was almost like an internal memo that wasn't supposed to be leaked.
Right. Well,
if you don't want to leak, then don't write it down.
Speaking of which, Bill Maher on his show during those same new rules posted a video, and the video was taken. It was either an internal meeting or an interview done by someone who was hired by Disney, basically saying they're going to spread their queer agenda, and nobody was pushing back on her.
Yeah,
and she was like, it was great. Everyone just let me push my queer agenda, and it was wonderful.
It looked like a screen grabbed Zoom conference.
It did.
That's what it looked like.
So it was either an interview or it was a work meeting or whatever it was. And look, I don't have anything against queer people. I don't have anything against gay, lesbian people. I don't have anything against transgender people. Look, I don't have a problem with anyone in the whole long list of whatever that group is. I don't. However, like Bill was saying, he was saying kids are stupid. Kids are also very vulnerable, and they're easy to convince.
Yeah,
they're eager to please.
Well, think about kids and Santa Claus. You can bribe a child essentially from, say, Halloween to Christmas by saying that a fat man in a red suit is going to come to your house and goes to every kid's house in the world on a sleigh that flies through the air, that's drawn by reindeer, carrying toys made by elves in the North Pole, and they eat it up. The Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, they believe all this crap. I'm just waiting until I don't have to keep any of these mythical characters alive, and for Christmas, rather than sitting around opening toys and crap that we bought from Amazon, we can go on a cruise or to a resort for a week and get the F away from this place. But like, they'll believe anything. So he's absolutely right. Like when he says they're morons, I mean, that might be a little harsh, but
you get the point. Obviously, there's some comedic effect he's trying to put in.
But think about your little, like when your kids were little, you were pretty much, you follow them around to make sure they didn't kill themselves doing something. It was like, who said, it was a joke. I read the comedian that said it. It's like having I think it was David Spade, said that having a toddler was like, it was like following around a drunken Ozzy Osbourne who was suicidal. Like, don't kill yourself here. Like, they sway all over the place and fall down and can't talk straight. So, yeah, you're kind of right there.
And it's almost like if you want to convince a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old, so basically kindergarten through like 3rd, 4th grade, if you want to convince them that being gay and queer and all this stuff it's really great, it's the best thing on earth, and they idolize the teacher that's telling them this, you could fairly easily convince a child that they're gay, because kids are eager to please. They'll do almost anything to please the adults in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I know that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people that are probably hearing that.
Yeah. Well, I know from like coaching baseball, these kids will do anything for a piece of gum. Like a piece of gum, a little packet of sunflower seeds, so you take something that has nefarious intent, or is trying to push an agenda, then and you put them in that environment.
If you sprinkle in a little bit of a bad home life, where they don't feel loved at home, but they've got this person at school showing them additional love, and now I want to be just like them. So you're going to convince yourself that you're just like them. And again, if you don't think there are people out there that would take advantage of kids like this, all you got to do is go to TikTok or go to Lives of TikTok. Again, she's not posting anything that these people aren't posting themselves. She's literally just taking the video and posting it. Mm-hmm. The fact that Bill Maher put 2 of the videos in his new rules segment showed, and this was probably the first time liberal fans of his have probably ever seen anything like that.
Yeah.
And he just showed 2.
Mm-hmm.
This lady this Lives a TikTok lady, she puts up 2 a day?
Yeah.
Of different people?
Mm-hmm. And I've seen them because I follow that Twitter profile, whatever the hell you call it, Twitter account. I don't know. And some of it, when there's no American flag, but there's the queer flag and all this stuff. So same people who are screaming, I don't want to say the pledge, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, are now putting this flag up and saying, you're going to pledge allegiance to this flag. Now, I fully support your right to not say the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't hold that, that conservative view that all those players that kneeled for the national anthem. Go ahead. You don't want to say you don't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance. No, there are times where I see the shit that this government does. I don't want to swear allegiance to it either. My allegiance is to my family and to my God before it is to this freaking disaster of a government. Mm-hmm. So I fully support that, but don't go and say you're not going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to fight that, but now you're going to say this queer pledge.
Right.
What the hell is that? Something you made up last week.
Right. Yeah. And if people don't think that has an effect on a kid,
mm-hmm.
have never met a kid.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a niece, doesn't have a nephew, doesn't have kids of their own. Mm-hmm. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just find it interesting, though. And we've said this in the past. I don't understand how, we're literally living in 2 different societies right now. They talk about a civil war and this, that. I don't know if we're ever going to have an actual fighting civil war.
Well, the biggest movie in the theaters right now is actually called Civil War.
Correct.
It's about that.
Very true. But I don't understand. You can't have a conversation with someone who's living literally 4 years ago mm-hmm. today. Because they didn't have... we don't get the same information.
No. They're still happy to get their information from the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN
and Bill Maher.
Yeah.
Right? Look, if it doesn't come from someone liberal, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid you look outside your bubble, or they don't... Look, I don't want to say they don't think for themselves, because I get it. Look, not everyone has the time in their day to go and look up 13 articles and 3 to 4 different videos, commentary on the same topic, right? They're working. They have mm-hmm. actual jobs. I get that. But sometimes those same people are very ardent in their... they're very set in their thoughts on a certain topic, right? Someone will know the person who does have the time to do all that. Mm-hmm. But they'll still be adamant that that person is wrong. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of like if I went and said, I'm going to go build a plane, and the engineer came over and said I'm building it wrong, and I'm like, no, I'm going to keep doing it this way.
Yeah.
Because I know better. Mm-hmm. Even though I just showed up here 3 minutes ago and I didn't go to any engineering school, I know better than you, engineer man, who has like a 4-year degree plus another 2-year degree plus another probably 2-year degree on top of that.
And experience actually doing it.
Right. And you've built airplanes for 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? But I know better than you.
Yeah. And because that person's questioning your beliefs, they're a bigot or they're racist or they're phobic or whatever ism you want to attach to it. Because that's the ultimate tactic that they use. Once they're confronted with too many facts, they just shout you down as a bigot or transphobic or, Riley Gaines said on Joe Rogan, he goes, I'm not afraid of a man in a dress. Right. But they just shout you down as being all of these things, and no one wants to be called these things because it's bad. No one wants to be thought I'm not that. Even the mere suggestion of it.
The problem is, though, the words lose the meaning because they've been used so much in every kind of context. It's been used so many times when it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
It's like when they call Republicans fascists.
Right, when Joe Biden's doing actual fascist shit.
when literally, the current regime in the White House created the Bureau of Disinformation.
Right, and busted the railroad workers strike and
Well, it's like the Prime Minister of Australia right now. Have you heard about this guy?
Mm-mm.
He literally said, it's almost like when we talked about Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court saying the government has to have the ability to censor its people because free speech. This guy actually said free speech is dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Well, because to them it is.
Well, I mean, it's also coming from a country who during COVID put their people in camps.
Yeah.
Because they left after a curfew.
Mm-hmm.
The funny part is growing up, I always thought Australia was freer than us.
Yeah.
The actual bastion of freedom.
Crocodile Dundee was from there.
Right. I mean, he was badass.
Yeah.
Non-freedom doesn't come from that.
Right.
But this guy, these people are nuts, man. It's where does that come from? It feels like every once in a while it just pops out of nowhere. All of a sudden Australia, I shouldn't say out of nowhere because it would happen in 2021 when they put the people in the camps.
Yeah.
They literally built, it was almost like a Japanese internment camp only in Australia for people who didn't want to bow down to the COVID gods.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? But again, only certain people knew that happened because it wasn't put in mainstream media. Well, now you got, all of a sudden you got some of these liberal pundits finally deciding to speak out. Which to me, look, I'm happy they're starting to speak out because these things, stuff that people knew 4 years ago, liberals finally get to find out about. And maybe they can finally get on board with, oh shit, maybe not all this was great.
Yeah.
But it's also where were you 4 years ago to do this? Why did you sit on the sideline and not even have the conversation? And the funny part was, on a recent Rogan podcast, he was talking with Akash Singh. Mm-hmm. He's on the Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schultz, who, by the way, is not Jewish. Apparently, a lot of people on Twitter thinks he is. Jewish last name, not Jewish though. And Akash asked him, well, what do you think when CNN put that video out about you? He goes, I didn't care. He goes, I literally have 10 million more listeners each day than they do.
Yeah.
He goes, they didn't realize it at the time. He goes, they didn't realize I had that much more reach than them. Mm-hmm. So I was able to shut that down real quick. And he's like, every time they came after me, they never realized that I had more listeners than them.
Yeah.
And so every time they put out that stuff, I was able to rebut it to more people, which got back to the people that watched them.
Well, every attempt they had at canceling Joe Rogan increased his reach.
And
his numbers of subscribers went up.
It went up.
Yeah.
I mean, and look at it this way. Look at CNN now compared to the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Stelter, fired.
Yep.
Don Lemon, fired. Chris Cuomo, fired. Those are three big names for CNN. Yeah. Fired. I don't know if Anderson Cooper's still there.
I think he is.
But I believe he's a Kennedy, so you're not getting fired from that shit. And we can get into that in a minute about the Kennedys, about that ad they put out against their own fucking brother and dad, which is fucking Looney Tunes to me. But I mean, I'm not gonna say this definitively because I can't prove it. But Joe Rogan could probably claim that he killed CNN.
Yeah.
Like, who was the doctor there that he had on his show?
Oh,
man.
Was it Gupta?
Sanjay Gupta. Was that him?
I want to say it was.
I'm gonna Jamie this real quick. Let's see. CNN doctor. With my old eyes, I can't see shit. Sanjay Gupta. Had Sanjay Gupta on a show, called out CNN for what they did with him on the show. He went back on the show. He went back to CNN, restated the fucking lie.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point, that's when the dominoes started to fall. Like, at first it was, Vivek had a thing to do with getting Don Lemon fired.
Mm-hmm.
When Don Lemon tried to pull out the white man.
Yeah.
And Vivek's like, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm kind of brown.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Like, are you, like, it's almost like the man just read off a teleprompter without, he probably went back to his dressing room and just berated some teleprompter kid. But, like, that was one of the most shocking, eye-opening moments when he was trying to tell another minority, like, he was trying to whitewash it.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, dude, you're that fucking stupid.
And I think a lot of the things with these people, they have absolutely no self-awareness. Like, they believe their own bullshit. And CNN, being as arrogant and conceited as, you know, the standard bearer of the original cable news and all this crap, like, didn't even think that some little podcaster, but didn't realize, like, it was never even bothered to check. Just thought there was, the people that listen to Rogan were a bunch of bros, like, who were into MMA and weed and mushrooms, without realizing, like, probably never bothered to check, like, his resume of guests that the guys interviewed.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the resume of guests that he had were all getting canceled.
Yeah.
For not going along with the government talking points on COVID.
Yeah. Speaking of canceling, one of the interesting things is, have you noticed, like, the cancellation? It's no longer a useful tactic.
Right.
Like, they don't really try to do it anymore because it blows up in their face a lot. And then they start to eat their own.
I've talked about this in the past. In my opinion, Democrats are they're always playing the short game. They never look at the long-term effects.
Mm-hmm.
And the example I give is the Harry Reid example. When he shortened, he lessened the amount of votes that a Supreme Court nominee needed to get confirmed by the Senate. He lowered it from 60 to 50. He went to a simple majority.
Yeah.
He did it in anticipation of Hillary Clinton becoming president. Because they were blocking Merrick Garland, I believe, is the one.
Yeah.
At the time. So Harry Reid changed the rules. Trump gets elected. They're able to get 3 probably more conservative people on there than they would have because they only needed 51 votes and they had control of the Senate at the time. But that's my prime example of Democrats cutting their nose off despite their faces. They never think, how can this be used against me when I eventually don't have power? Because eventually you won't have power.
Yeah. But it makes perfect sense. Think about all their policy prescriptions, everything they kind of put. It's what feels good now. And look, I'm not giving established Republicans a pass either.
No, they're shit too.
You know, they're shit libs and neocons and they're all pieces of garbage.
Yep.
You know, talentless ass clowns who, you know, politics is the best way for a mediocre person to attain power and influence. So they're not getting a pass, but they're always their policy prescription. What feels good now? What feels good now? What feels good now? What gets me elected now? What gets votes now? And they don't, you know, all the, you know, my argument against censorship is, okay, when you're in charge of censorship, yeah, it's good, but you're not always going to be in charge of shit. And when you're being censored, then all of a sudden, oh wait, well, how this happened? You started it, you know, and as long as they keep doing things that feel good now, then you're right. They never play the long game. So it's always this short game. What gives me votes? What accomplishes something now? Let's not think about second and third order consequences. Let's just think about right now.
Yeah, I don't understand why they keep doing it though, especially after that Harry Reid bullshit. You saw how it backfired. Why use the same fucking playbook? Like, you gotta at some point play the long game. Yeah, you might not win the next election, but you're gonna set yourself up for whenever you get the power back to do the things you want to do. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I just don't get it. I mean, and now they got the whole Kennedy clan going after Robert Kennedy Jr. I think both sides, I think Trump's and Biden's campaigns are probably both shitting a brick about RFK. Because I don't think he's going to start blitzing ads for another probably 2 to 3 months. Mm-hmm. I think probably by July, August, you start seeing him come out full force. His biggest problem is he might not be on the ballot in all 50 states, which is rough.
Yeah.
Which is generally why a third-party candidate will jump in with another party that has ballot access in all 50 states. He's not going that route. I also think he I think he picked a bad vice president.
Who is it?
Exactly. That's the problem. It's some lady from Silicon Valley. It was a bad pick, but it might have been the only person who was willing to do it. Mm-hmm. I think if he was smart, and well, I shouldn't say if he was smart, the best political move he could have made was to go get Tulsi Gabbard. Get a name. Yeah. And never mind that. Get a name that the establishment fucking hates.
Oh, yeah.
Because they hate her.
Yep.
And the problem is, though, you would have to give her a lot. Because she knows if she jumps in, it's going to give an instant boost to somebody.
Yeah.
Like, if Trump picks her as a VP, you might be able to lock this election up.
Yeah.
Because they might hate him, but a lot of anti-establishment love her. Mm-hmm. A lot of middle of the road, especially disaffected liberals, love her. If Trump's able to pull her, I mean, you might be able to call the election the day he does it. If RFK would have done it, I actually think the election would have been RFK versus Trump. I actually think the Democrats would have been out of it. Like, not out of it. I mean, they would have been on the ballot, and you would have gotten your maybe 25%. Mm-hmm. But I think the other 75% would have been in play.
Well, I can't understand how people can get excited at all about Joe Biden. I can't. And I'm removing my own feelings about, like, how does anyone get excited about this guy?
Again, it's not a matter of being excited for him.
I think they just hate Trump so much they'd vote for anybody.
100%. It's how Trump got. Yeah. It's how he got the nomination. It's how he got. He got nominated because people didn't like George W. Bush at the time. This is before George W. Bush was a good guy again. They didn't like Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
They hated you. They didn't like the Bush name. Mm-hmm. Trump was pounding the shit out of him.
Yeah.
He was an asshole to him. Everything, and they loved it. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. The thing with Biden is, I mean, they're not excited about him. That they really fucking hate Trump. Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing.
Yeah.
I'm convinced of that. And if that's who I think I have to vote for in order to beat him, that's where people are going to go. The problem with RFK Jr. is, who is he going to pull the most votes from? I think he's going to pull middle of the road Democrats, but I also think he's going to pull middle of the road Republicans. There's a lot of never Trumpers out there.
Yeah. Yeah, there are. And so if it hurts both equally, then it just essentially it's a net zero. It doesn't.
Is it though? But here, let's say he takes 25%. That's a massive amount for a third party candidate.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you got 75% left. Mm-hmm. I mean, what are you looking at? 35 and 35. That gets you to 70.
Well, a third of the voters are going to vote for the Republican, and the third are going to vote for the Democrat, regardless. That middle third. Now, 25% comes out. Now you've only got 8% left swinging it one way or the other. It depends on where the majority of that 25% come from.
Yeah.
So, I think he's been pretty quiet about his positions on some of the hot button issues. You know, what's RFK Jr.'s position on the Second Amendment?
Oh, he just put out something that said, he goes, I'm not coming for your guns. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure he's pro-Second Amendment. I think he's pro-choice, though.
Yeah.
So you're going to split some people there.
Well, they changed it to pro-abortion.
Sorry, pro-abortion.
Because pro-choice means that you can choose not to get the vaccine.
Sure.
So, but who can be pro-abortion? Like, who's for,
you got to admit, it was one of the best marketing things they ever did.
Yeah.
To basically paint them as pro-abortion.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and I've said my feelings on it numerous times, how, you know, I don't think the government should be involved in this because the government's involved in too much anyway. But, like, it's how are you for that? Like, that's never good. You know, like, well, now there are crazy people going and celebrating their abortions.
That's on TikTok too, by the way.
So,
I mean, I'm surprised they just didn't go full blown at China shop and call it pro killing babies.
Yeah.
Like, why stop at pro abortion? You're pro killing children. Mm-hmm. Like, goddamn, that's a bit extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the title. I mean, the title on the card of this one's going to be about Title IX, but we kind of encompassed the thing in this episode. Yeah. As two, we pretty much said, look, we're disaffected liberals with some conservative viewpoints.
Yeah.
But the Democrat Party has just gone so far off the rails that I don't think I can vote for it anywhere. Like, in fact, at some point, I'm voting against Democrats straight down the ticket at this point because of what they've allowed to become the agenda.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm not behind changing Title IX. I'm not behind this anti-Israel thing, which apparently is a Democrat thing now, which, I mean, don't know how that happened. I'm not pro-trans female and biological women's sports. I'm not, like, these are not hot button issues for me. If they would, for me, a hot button liberal issue is let's fix healthcare. Like, you were going in that direction, and then all of a sudden, just because you got the ACA passed, you just let it be shit rather than fixing it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, fuck, man, you had the power to fix it. And instead you chose this other shit to run on. Like, come on, man.
You just went for, you could have gone for screaming hot. You went for, like, tepid.
Yeah. It's like, you decided to push this COVID jab shit, which, by the way, we can talk about the Anthony Fauci thing another day. But, man, this is fucked up. Like, the playbook he used during the AIDS epidemic, it's literally the same playbook he used for COVID. Mm-hmm. And he really fucked up the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the Dallas Buyers Club, it was a book about when AIDS and HIV first came around and all the medical drug information and the procedures and AZT and how Fauci was pushing AZT rather than peptides and other shit. Dude, it's wild. It's wild how very similar the two playbooks were. And if Robert Kennedy had a book out called The Real Anthony Fauci. Mm-hmm. But all it is basically like just it's a statement of what happened and the source it comes from. Like, there's very little book to it. It's almost like an encyclopedia. It's a dry read. Like, I'm trying to get through it, but it's dry as fuck. But I know the basic story because I read the Dallas Buyers Club. I watched the movie. If you don't want to read the book, watch the movie Dallas Buyers Club. It's got Matthew McConaughey, Jared Leto, good movie. And essentially, the doctor in there isn't Fauci, but it basically is a doctor pushing AZT and saying nothing else can be used. Even though if you went to Mexico or Japan, these other antivirals and other drugs and peptides and vitamins were being prescribed and they were having great success with it. Meanwhile, AZT was an old cancer drug that was killing cancer patients, and they were prescribing it for HIV and AIDS patients in higher doses than what they were giving to cancer patients. But anyway, you got anything else on this?
No, I'm good.
All right. We appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you soon. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Go to our sponsor, techmd.com. Go talk to Adam Chubbuck if you have any real estate needs in the Arnold, Pasadena, Severna Park, Baltimore, Howard County, anywhere in Maryland. He'll help you out. He'll get you on the right path to a great real estate transaction. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.